Hello, everyone. My name is Tess Greinock, and I'm here today with my colleague Leah Honor. We are your research data and scholarly communications librarians at UMass Chen Medical School, and we welcome you to today's seminar, Putting Your Best Foot Forward, Managing Your Scholarly Profile. Throughout the presentation, feel free to put questions in the chat. There will be pauses for activities and feedback. Leah and I are both published researchers, and we create and maintain our own research profiles and help others decide between the many scholarly profile options. And while they're a great way to disseminate your work, we understand the burden of trying to keep them maintained. So we wanted to share what we've learned over the years to help you make a more informed choice for your own research. And you'll see a lot of the examples today are from our own profiles, both ones that we keep private or public, and ones that are our go-to ones that we keep maintained. So at the end of today's session, we hope you will understand why managing your scholarly profile is a necessary part of your research workflow, determine the most appropriate tools, and create and update your scholarly profile to best present your academic achievements. First off, when we mention a scholarly profile, what are we talking about? So this is a digital record of your scholarly work that is part of a larger database or similar digital records, of similar digital records. And it can be used to publicize a collection of your works by yourself or a particular author in general, network with the scholarly community, distinguish research output for researchers with common names or multiple name variants, and could include metrics, citations, H-index, areas of research interest, education or employment information, and collaboration. And why, who needs one, or why should you have one? As a student, it's important to use them as a way to maintain credit for your work through institutional or name changes, and develop your profile to demonstrate your research interests. As a postdoc, faculty, or staff researcher, it helps keep your research output organized and helps with grant applications. It also makes it easier for collaborators, postdocs, and students to find you and learn about your research. And as a job seeker, it can make your CV stronger with a complete picture of your scholarly impact, as well as organized material for a tenure and promotion package. So pretty much everyone. And the first scholarly profile we're going to look at today is an ORCID record. So quick poll here, who has an ORCID ID? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and launch that poll. So everybody does, excellent. So if you were not aware, when you create an ORCID ID, that number, that long string of numbers, it also creates an ORCID record for you. And the great thing, not only does ORCID provide that name disambiguation, but it also has this profile page, which kind of solves that where's Wally problem. So we can definitively define which Wally we want to find. And ORCID ID, as you are aware, probably most likely, since you have now created one, is required by many funders and journals. And so since you already have an ORCID ID, to access your ORCID record, you would go to orcid.org and log in to and access your record that way. And to create the record, you're just filling in the information there, changing the visibility settings, whether you want information to be public or private or only visible to trusted parties, and then pulling in publications from existing sources such as Scopus or putting those in manually. And ORCID has some great guidance on their site, step-by-step, with lots of pictures as well, so that and screenshots, so that you can follow along as well. So what we're showing today is just a sort of abbreviated how-to. So if you are familiar with the ORCID page, the sign-in is in the top right-hand corner. And this is how the ORCID record will look like when you get to it from the editing side. And as I mentioned, you can set the visibility for each section, which is a nice part of ORCID. And we recommend that for most information, you want to have some minimum information available for somebody coming to your ORCID record to be able to distinguish that this is the correct ORCID record that they have found. But perhaps there's information that you want to keep private. For example, on my record, I keep my personal email as private. And that's why you see that it has a red eye as opposed to the green, which are visible to everybody. And another great tip and time saver for when you're creating your ORCID record is that to use the search and link feature within the work section to add in your publications, or you can add from a bibtex file. And a bibtex file is a file type that you can export from a number of different literature searching databases as well as citation managers. And if you click on that search and link function, you will get to this option of all the wizards that are available to pull publications in. There are 17 when I took the screenshot, and the ones that we would highly recommend are Scopus, since it is a large multidisciplinary article indexing database that has author profiles already created. So it's already sort of tried to do some of that name disambiguation already, which we are going to talk about in a minute. And the other two that we recommend are Crossref, which is a metadata database of article metadata collected when journals mint DOIs for an article. So they're going to be a great sort of authoritative and comprehensive source. Another source might be that we recommend is DataCite, and they're a metadata database of metadata on data and other research products collected from repositories when they're minting DOIs for those items, or some journals also use it as well. So, fun fact, here in the library, we use both Crossref and DataCite when we mint DOIs as well for our publishing and repository respectively. So I would encourage you to also explore the list to see if there's other relevant wizards. For example, if a lot of your work is in Europe PMC, they have a wizard, for example. So that is one nice tip for getting your ORCID ID, ORCID record filled in. And this is what the final record will look like. It doesn't look too different from the editing side, but for example, here you can see that the item that I had hidden from the public view, my personal email, is not displaying on the public page. So for each of the profiles that we're going to go through today, we wanted to highlight some of the strengths and weaknesses of all of them to help you make a better informed decision. So for ORCID, one of the great things about it is that when you include your ORCID ID on an article, it will often get automatically added to your ORCID profile. And I'm showing here an email that I received when one of my articles that I published got added to my ORCID profile. So not only does it get added, but you get notified of when it's added. So if there is something that is wrong, you can go and fix that yourself. You can also use information from ORCID and other platforms, such as ScienceCV and other scholarly profiles. So basically, once you have information into ORCID, it makes it a lot easier to put it into other platforms, which is great and a time saver. As well as we were showing for the editing side, you can make public and you have control over what it's displayed, and that has that granularity for the privacy setting. So it's not like everything is public or everything is private. You can decide which portions you want to make public or private. And it can be a complete list of all scholarship. So even if you aren't able to search and link all articles from Scopus, for example. You can pull them in from different platforms, as well as manually adding. So even if something is not located on one of the search and link functions or a bibtext file, you can add those in yourself. And so it can be a complete list of all types of scholarship. There are some weaknesses or drawbacks to ORCID, however. So first one being that the citation information that is in there, we find is limited. So it does not include all the information that is sometimes required, such as volume and issue for journal articles, for example. And this is user initiated. So the researcher has to take the time to create the record, and it requires some oversight to keep accurate and up to date. And we believe that ORCID is an important scholarly profile to maintain for all researchers. However, some important things to keep in mind with ORCID is that the sooner that you create one, the more useful it will be. And an ORCID ID is most useful if information on the record is public. As I said, like some sort of minimum information to be able to distinguish ORCID IDs between each other. So it's not just because the default for ORCID when you create it is all you need is the ORCID number and the name. So if having that is no better than just having the name. So having additional information is very helpful. You should only have one ORCID profile. Having multiple defeats the purpose. If you have multiple ORCID IDs, they have instructions on their website to follow to link them together. And so it'll remove that second duplicate ID. However, to do this, you will need to have or retrieve the login information for both accounts. All right, so we have a couple activities during this session today. So we're going to pause for activity right now. We're going to have you search ORCID for your record and or create your ORCID ID and make any updates that you see that you might want to make. And so we're going to give you about 5 minutes to do this. And I'll drop a link in the chat directly to ORCID. ORCID.org. And if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we're happy to answer them. Excellent. Okay. So as I alluded to, the second profile we wanted to cover today is Scopus author profiles. It's an automatically created ID and profile within Scopus, the article indexing platform from Elsevier. You can access Scopus from the library homepage, then log in or create your Elsevier account. And if you search for your name, we recommend searching for all variations of your name, because sometimes there's multiple profiles if you've published under a different name. And we recommend using your last name and first initial just to get the broadest results. And then you would claim your profile, and you can also add your ORCID ID here. And Elsevier also has some great training on their website as well if you want more information than we're covering today. And I'm showing on the screen here the window for when you click on the claim your profile and the options that you're given. And then if it was for your profile, you would click, yes, this is my profile. So what does this look like? So to run the search, when you get to Scopus, the first thing you're going to want to do is, because you're automatically directed to the document search, is to switch over to the authors tab. And then from there, that is where you will see enter last name, enter first name, and you can put in your last name and first initial. And from there, you would click on the author name to access the profile that is yours, or profiles that are yours, depending as the case might be. And to edit the profile, the first thing you'll need to do is make sure that you are signed in. So whether that is before you start your search or after you found your profile, you can create an account or sign in the top right-hand corner. And then right next to the set alert button, you can edit profile. And that will be where you will get that window that pops up saying, yes, this is my profile, please edit it. As well as part of that wizard, you're going to have the option to add any further articles that are not included on the profile currently, so that you can make sure that it's a complete and accurate record. This is also, I've also put a box around where you can connect to your ORCID as well. So you can add your ID there, and that way the Scopus and your ORCID will be able to talk to each other, and they'll be able to make updates based on your ORCID profile as well. And while the Scopus doesn't notify you each time that something is added to your profile automatically, you can set up an alert so that you can receive notifications of when that does happen. And so some of the overall benefits of a Scopus profile are that the profile does get created automatically, and the articles also get added automatically. Once you have an article in Scopus, there is an article Scopus author profile created for you, and you can set an alert to be notified of new articles that are added. Scopus also pulls articles from a wide range of disciplines and includes preprints as well. So that's a nice feature of their profiles. And you can retrieve article and author metrics from your profile as well, such as number of citations, H-index, co-authors, etc. And right here, I have the documented citation trends graph, which is further down on the profile page, and where individual citation counts show up for articles as well. So some drawbacks of Scopus profiles, though, are that the profile gets created automatically, occasionally there can be multiple profiles for a single person that need to be merged because occasionally Scopus doesn't do a good job of matching up this John Doe from this university is the same John Doe from this other university. They just moved. And so sometimes if you change institution, that it won't cover stay within the same profile, and you have to merge them. Scopus profiles are also only visible to people who have access to Scopus. We are lucky here that we do have access, so everybody here at UMass Chan is able to see them. And it only includes products that are indexed in Scopus. So if you're wanting, it's not going to be a complete record of everything that you've ever published if there are articles that are in journals not indexed in Scopus, or you were hoping to include data sets on a profile, for example. It's not going to be able to include those. And therefore, only researchers that have articles indexed in Scopus will have a profile. For example, Leah has a profile on Scopus and I do not, because we've published in different journals, and the journals I've published in are not indexed in Scopus. So we believe that Scopus is best for verifying information is accurate before applying for an academic position or submitting a promotion and tenure package, because a lot of academic institutions have Scopus available to them if they are planning hiring for academic positions. They might be using Scopus to be able to look for potential candidates, as well as reviewing candidates that apply. So making sure that information is correct, just make sure that you're being presented accurately. As well as Scopus is a great source information for publication information to pull into other tools such as ORCID. So if you're curious of what your profile looks like in Scopus, now is your chance. Leah has just dropped the link in the chat for institutional access to Scopus. So just remember, once you get there, you're going to want to switch over to the author tab, and we're going to give you, again, about 5 minutes to search through and either create an Elsevier account to be able to edit your Scopus profile, or set an alert for your Scopus profile just so you can be notified of future articles that get added, or any other changes or updates you'd like to make. And as we said earlier, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we are happy to answer them.
if you do find that you are one of those people who has multiple Scopus author profiles, you can also request that they be merged. It's not instantaneous, and Scopus will do some sort of back end review, and then you will be alerted once those accounts have been merged. So if you do find any inaccuracies, feel free to work on correcting them. All right, so the next profile that we are going to look at is Google Scholar and the Google Scholar author profiles. So the nice thing about Google Scholar is that it is available to anyone. It is free with a Google or Google Scholar account. And to set one up, you just sign into your Google account and click on the My Profile link at the top of the page when you go to Google Scholar. So this is what a Google Scholar profile page looks like in the edit mode. So once you have signed in, you can see that you can privacy settings. You can update which articles are listed, edit the bibliographic information that is sort of auto-populated from your Google account. So if you needed to change your education or your employment information, that can be done. And it does include, as you can see, things like numbers of citations, H-index, and information like that. So since Google is the largest search engine in the world, Google Scholar is able to harness that to create the largest index of scholarly material in the world. It spans a huge number of topics and disciplines. It is not specific to biomedical information or anything else. Google Scholar profiles can be made public or private, and they include free citation metrics and author scores, like I mentioned. And it will also suggest articles for you to add to your profile based on its own algorithm. So this is sort of both a strength and a weakness because it's going to suggest a lot of material that is maybe not actually appropriate. It's not actually yours. So a Google Scholar profile will need regular maintenance to ensure that it is accurate and up to date. So generally, what we say is that a Google Scholar profile is best for enhancing the dissemination of your work with its broad, open global access and as a tool for metrics, especially for those who maybe do not have access to any of the paid subscriptions or tools that you get with an institutional affiliation. So those who are either looking for a new job or new to the research world may not have access to something like Scopus. So maybe a Google Scholar profile is a great place to start. And the last kind of profile that we're going to talk about is the UMass Chan research profiles, which are actually automatically created and maintained for all UMass Chan faculty by the university IT department. So these are populated with a combination of official institutional designations, such as your faculty rank and department, as well as citations that are generated through an automatic PubMed search based on faculty name. This is really helpful as it is regularly run and updated, but there can be a lot of misattributed works, especially for those with common or shared names. There's not a great disambiguation filter included in that search. So you can edit your own faculty profile by signing in on any of the UMass Profiles page and then choosing the Edit My Profile link. We do recommend if you so choose, you can have a link to a complete list of publications, whether that is to your ORCID or to your CV that is hosted somewhere else, anything like that. If you do not plan to actively manage your profile page, just because otherwise it can present a possibly inaccurate picture of your publications. You can set up your own PubMed alert for new publications with your name, and this will help you keep track of when things would be added to your profile, whether they are appropriate or not, just because that is what the automatic search is running on. So to sign in, this is just what it looks like. You use your institutional login from any profiles page and use the login link at the top left. And then you can see under your available options for edit my profile, there are privacy settings that can be updated for various types of the information. You can add a photo, you can update your educational history, a lot more. If you scroll down on that page, there is a publication section, and that you can see you can edit your list of publications that are being displayed. So if there are any that are inappropriate, you can remove them. As well as add any missing citations, whether that is through a different PubMed search using a digital identifier such as a PubMed ID or a DOI, or do a manual entry for custom citations or publications. And that pops up just a form that you can fill in with that information. Once all of the information is accurate, here's what a public-facing profile looks like. Notice I do not actually have a picture, but I could add one. And then the facets on the right-hand side of this page, the concepts, co-authors, and similar people, these are all done automatically by profiles for you to help increase visibility and collaboration within the institution, sort of by highlighting others who are either doing similar work or in similar positions. Not always the most accurate, but it is there. Some of the highlights UMass profiles are that due to the high search engine optimization utilized by the university, your UMass profile is often one of the top search results. Generally, if you search your name and UMass, that is absolutely what's going to come up first. They are automatically created upon faculty hire or appointment, and they pull in works from PubMed for you. If well maintained, it can be a complete list of your works that can be used to showcase research output and impact. Profiles can send information to ORCID so that you have a more complete scholarly record in multiple places. And each citation will have PubMed Central and altmetric impact information attached if it is available. And then you can manage the privacy settings for different sections to make it work for you. Some of the drawbacks do include that the PubMed search is not great at name disambiguation. So there's often some noise in the results that get listed on your profile page, and it is not something that any of us have any control over. It is an automatic search that is done regularly, but at a higher level. The citations that are not indexed in PubMed will also not appear because that is the only source that is being searched unless you go in and manually add them. And then profiles are only available to those with faculty appointments. So students, staff, postdoc, many others are actually not represented in the UMass Profiles network. So in short, UMass Profiles are a lovely tool, but only really intended for a small subset of people, namely UMass Chan faculty, and they are not portable. So if you do go to a new institution, it will not stay visible here. So if you are counting on that to be your one and only complete record of citations, we do recommend that you either download that list or link your ORCID in some way such that it does not disappear if you leave the institution. So we did want to mention that this was in no way a comprehensive list of all scholarly profiles available out there to anyone ever. This is just sort of an introduction to some of the most popular and common ones that we tend to recommend to people. There are some others that we know that are being used. These include things like the Web of Science researcher profiles and reviewer recognition services, previously known as Publons. Some people like to use LinkedIn as their list of record for their publications. And then the National Library of Medicine tool, My Bibliography and Science CV is also a common and popular place to maintain a comprehensive list of publications. So the Web of Science researcher profile provides a limited public profile and is connected to the reviewer recognition service. Some features of it are only available to Web of Science subscribers. So while you can create a free profile, it is not full functionality unless you have a institutional logon to Web of Science, which unfortunately here at UMass we do not. And you can connect it to your ORCID ID. So again, this is a way to maintain one source of accurate information. LinkedIn is great for those who are job seeking, especially those for industry positions. Recruiters will also pull from here, so you can keep it as up to date and comprehensive as you choose. Some people do also like to post material on their LinkedIn page, and we will talk about that in just a little bit. But at the very least, you can have citations for your publications on your LinkedIn profile. And then My Bibliography and Science CV These are tools that will be needed during NIH grant submission process. So if you do know that you are going to or are in the process of putting together an NIH grant, we do recommend that you make sure that these are up to date, just to help maintain. It proactively facilitates accurate information there where your biosketch information gets pulled in from. So it's best to have that as up to date as possible. So in general, keeping your profile up to date will sort of ensure that it is the most useful that it can be to you, no matter which one you choose to use. So we do recommend that you should be checking each one probably about once a year. You can make it part of your annual review process so it doesn't get forgotten. If you know you publish very frequently, or if you have a particular year where you know you have published multiple things in multiple journals, maybe on multiple topics, it can be worth checking more often just to make sure nothing is missed or forgotten or incorrectly updated. You can set alerts of your own on many of these scholarly profiles or literature databases for when you have a new publication to add. Different databases may take longer to index a new publication or may update on different schedules, so it's a nice way to keep track yourself of what should be visible. And it's always worth going through and making sure your profiles are up to date before you are applying to a new job or submitting a grant application or putting together a promotion and tenure package. Some general identity management tips that are worth keeping in mind. Keeping your professional and personal identities separate. Social media is a major example of this. Your ORCID profile does not have any reason to link to your Twitter profile. Those can be completely separate. Sorry, not Twitter, whatever it is now, X. Keep your keep your name and image consistent across platforms. It helps let people know that they are looking at the right profile if you have a common or shared name. If you do need a professional headshot, the Office of Communications provides this service, and there is a form to sign up for a free headshot session here on campus. So that is linked in the slides. That you can link your profiles together to keep the information consistent and uniform across platforms. ORCID is the most obvious example of this. Most of the platforms that we have discussed will allow you to link to ORCID. It just makes sure that everything sort of gets updated together. And then work incrementally but consistently on your online identity. Do a regular search for yourself, see what comes up, and whether that is an accurate representation of yourself online. If there's anything inappropriate, it's almost as important to know that everything that should be there is, but also things that should not be there are not showing up. And then you can, as we said, set alerts for yourself in any systems that offer it, just to keep on top of your digital identity, and staying alert for updates to existing systems that you may be using, whether this is changes in privacy policy or anything like that, just to keep on top of what might be changing that you didn't notice. All right, a quick note on copyright. Before you post full copies of anything that you have published, make sure you review the terms of commercial services for the platforms that you were using, and keep in mind what copyright you retained when you published. Do this by checking your author agreements. Listing citations is pretty much always fine. It's part of fair use, but especially on a non-scientific platform such as LinkedIn, posting full PDFs may not be appropriate or legal, technically. So what rights you give up when you publish will determine how you can reuse that information from published articles. This also does include often images and figures, so check before you repost them. If you ever want to check that kind of information and you can't find your specific author agreement, Sherpa Romeo is a great database where you can check journal licenses to determine what the standard copyright permissions are for the particular journal in which you published. Okay, so thank you for coming to today's seminar on scholarly profiles. And we just wanted to let you know about some of our upcoming seminar series in the new year. On January 3rd, we will be presenting a workshop on finding data at 12 p.m. on Zoom. And later on in the new year, we will be covering ICPSR, which is the Inter-University Consortium for Political and Social Research Data Repository. We will be doing a session on systematic reviews, an introduction to the coding language R, using R for data visualization, and then combating misinformation and disinformation in the scholarly literature. All of these will be found in our seminar pages, and more information will be distributed once dates and times have been determined. Okay, we are happy to take any questions now. If you have any questions in the future, always feel free to use the Ask a Librarian button or form that's found on any of our library websites. Your questions will be sent to the appropriate person, whether that is Tess or myself or one of the other members of our department represented here, Sally, our manager, or Lisa, our institutional repository librarian. There is also a quick feedback survey that we would really appreciate that you fill out. That link will be in the chat. There it is. And any questions that are asked on that feedback form will be answered to the whole group as appropriate. So if you have a question, it's likely that other people probably do too.